Evening, everybody. Attention. Quiet, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. And a great evening tonight from Milton Keynes Amateur Radio Society. In case you hadn't noticed, we are filming tonight, so if this all goes well, it will appear on YouTube and various other embarrassing places later on.
Can I leave now?
You can leave now, yeah. You can also pay my way out. So Will, G1YYU, Club Secretary, is going to demonstrate how you can make amazing antennas from bits of junk. And he's got a surprise for you when he's finished. So pay attention, because there kind of is a test at the end of it. And with that, I'll hand over to Will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Right, I shan't bore you too much. Cooking with antennas. Right, where does this start? Well, the bow tie is because, if you all remember the last talk I had, bow tie antennas for Wi-Fi. So there's a little tribute to the bow tie. Cooking with antennas, strange. But when you think that you need a Coke can, you need a cup, several, and some silver foil. What can you make with that? Well, let's start at the beginning. I'm sure you can all get hold of a bit of copper pipe. Yeah? And with a simple little tool, and with a little bit of a measuring device, and here we are, not prepared at all for this. You might need to take some notes, or watch the video afterwards. Some people don't even know how to cut a piece of tubing. Yeah? You get one of these little devices. This is a lovely kitchen, by the way. What you do need in your kitchen is your cooker. So we've got a cooker. We need some other bits and pieces, but we'll come to that in a moment. So let's start with the basics. Let's start with a copper pipe. We can all practice this very easily. We can go like that, and we can say, let's measure that to, let's take a number, clean out of the air, 310, yeah? Now, did I make that number up?
No.
Information's at the end of the thing. Questions and answers at the end, please? Because if I get to bore people, before the questions start, I can run out of the room. And I can leave someone else to answer it. Because this is based on some of the things that I've heard over the years of the excuses of not being able to get on the air. Look at that, can't even make this work. Can't get on the air because the garden's too small, they can't afford an antenna, they can't do this, they can't do that. I've heard all the excuses, and sometimes it's because people are lazy. Not because they haven't got the money, it's because they're lazy. And if they can just go out and get themselves some copper piping, you need about 2.4 metres. So let's say you get 3 canes of copper piping. And we cut that to 310. Yeah? Now it's very easy, because all you do is just twist it and twist it and twist it and twist it. This is all part of the cookery. That's why we've got the silver foil, because you always have silver foil in the kitchen. You always like to have a drink when you're in the kitchen. So we just do a bit of cutting. And it's a bit like making a sandwich. You've got to have the right ingredients. Now, if you had a tomato and cheese sandwich, it's all very nice. But if you don't like cheese and tomato, you change it to something else, tuna and sweet corn. I wouldn't suggest eating a copper sandwich. It's not very nice, and it does wonderful things to your fillings in the back of your mouth. So, this is not going as well as I thought. But there you go. If you just cut a load of these tubes, how easy is that? Right, so we cut a load of these. And then we get some sandpaper. Right, you've got that in your drawer, I'm sure. Right, and all you need to do is clean the ends. Yeah, you can just run it along and get it nice and clean. Yeah, now why do we need to do that? Well, you need some other ingredients as well. So we've cut a load of those. Then you need some other ingredients. Now if I've got my ingredients bag here, some pre-cut tubes. all the measurements will be with you in a moment. You need 8 of those little buggers. Right? Somebody once said, can you see what it is yet? Can you tell what I've made yet? So that's where the cooker comes in. So people don't know how to solder these joints. Get it nice and clean the inside of that up. And when you solder it, don't hold the copper pipe. Don't do what I did. Heat it from underneath, a little bit on the top. As soon as you see that start to melt, take the flame away. What I tend to do is use another ingredient. Now that's lead-free soldering, those things there. I forgot to mention you need another ingredient. You need some flux. Plumbing flux. Yeah? Wash your hands, because that stuff is nasty. That's after you've handled it. Apply the flux onto the ends, but put a bit of flux in there. And like I said, that's lead-free solder. Now I don't like lead-free solder, so I use plumber's lead. You can buy it in lengths. While it's hot, just dab a little bit onto the ends, and it just runs in really nice. Just makes a nice clean join. And then when you've done that, with a few of those, you get to a point where you get that. So that's what flux does to copper pipes. So you can wash it off, but if you get it on your hands, it's not very nice on your hands. The flux will start to eat you. So you start putting these things together. What I do is put it on the edge of a table or get some pieces of wood and work from underneath. You can do 2. Make sure that you've already cleaned the other end as well, because otherwise you've got to wait till it cools down before you can clean the end. So now we do 2 lots like that. Again, excuses. I don't like hearing people say, you know, I can't do that, I can't do this. So it's now starting to look like something that resembles something I use quite a lot, and I've made quite a few of these. So when we start putting these things together, and I put the flux in there and I've cleaned up the ends, I start to get things looking like this. Yeah? This is all starting from your copper pipe. 1 copper pipe, 1 cutter. How hard's that? There's ingredients. We're already halfway there. Once we've started to get that put together, I feel like Mr. Pastry actually, just going all over the place. Those that can remember Mr. Pastry.
Showing your age, Will.
I know. So, there's some of the ingredients. I haven't got any copper wire at home. I really haven't. If you've got coax, you've got copper braid. Strip off a piece of copper braid from pull the inside out. You've got yourself some copper braid. There's another part of the ingredient. The smaller pieces. You need 7 of the larger pieces. And this one, these 2, that would have been one of those. But you cut it 13mm short, 310 remember, and then take 30mm off and then cut it in half. Why do you say that? Well, what you end up with is something like this. I've just bolted it together. Some people stick a piece of wood in there, but I've just end capped it, screwed it up. I've got myself a magnetic loop. Doesn't seem to be doing much at the moment, does it? There's one part of the braid, there's another part of the braid. I've put some tags on there. Now, the reason why I tag it is so that I can change a certain part of it. It was mentioned earlier on. I'll come to that in a moment. And in true Blue Peter fashion, here's a bigger version. Slightly bigger. Made out of 22mm. I actually have a friend who made one out of, I think it's 67 or 66mm copper tubing. The bigger the tubing, the better the antenna. How much does the tubing cost? Well, I think the length of this, don't quote me, it's about £4. Right? But if people still can't afford that sort of price, then obviously the larger 22mm is a little bit more expensive. Now, we need a capacitor. There's a capacitor. It's only small. You can pick them up in junk rallies, boot sales, whatever. But that's not really going to cut the mustard, is it? You know, and I can't really afford to pay 50 quid for something like that. I can't. I can't afford 50 quid for something like that. It's really nice, but it's expensive. Well, I want it to work with something like this. And it will work with this. This one actually will tune that smaller loop to 10 megs, 21, 18, 14 megs. That's on that. But that's expensive. You can pick these up, but you're not going to get a lot of power through it. You know? If I start putting power into something like this, there's something. Who's ever licked a 9-volt battery? Anybody? Yeah, it's not pleasant, is it? I had the joyous occasion of actually making my grandson do it. It was very nice. And who's ever peed up an electric fence? Yeah, it hurts. It hurts, and that's what it's about. It hurts. If you touch this when you're transmitting, it hurts. About 3.5 kilovolts, and that really can bite you, I'll tell you. So, I need a capacitor, but I'm still not happy. I'm not paying that sort of money for that. I'm really not paying that. We'll put it all together, and we'll have a demonstration in a moment. And if you really want to go mad, get a clock motor, 90p off eBay, and you can tune this remotely. Put a battery and a switch left and right, and you can do things like that. But it bothers me to pay that sort of money for those things there. So, let's make a capacitor. Now, there's your silver foil, there's your cups, one plate inside, one plate inside, and a spacer. You put a little tag on one side, a little tag on the other, and you can tune your capacitor. Now, you won't put a lot of power into that because it might arc through the plastic, and it's not very nice when these start to smell. I know that because 20 watts melts cups. So I wasn't happy with that either. Let's see if we can step it up a little bit. That's when the tin can comes in here. A nice drink. There are other brands available. Yeah. 7-Up is not part of the crossword. It does mean lemonade, but so I robbed some tiles, and there's your plates, and we'll do a practical demonstration of that in a moment. You put one plate there on the corner, put a tag on there. I can tape it down. Put that on there. Put that one in there. Put another one on top, and I can pull one out from the other, and there's your variable capacitor. How easy is that? Yeah. And you can put 50 watts through that. Anything near it, mind you, might catch fire, but you can get 50 watts through that easily. So, how much does this all cost? Right, so you've got to get the solder, you've got to get some wire, which is cheap as chips. But these components, they're about £1.50, £2 each. It's getting expensive, you know. Especially when you start going into these sorts of sizes, they get really expensive. You know, I made this one, must be 5 years ago now. But I've made loads of them. Now, let's see if we can go down the route of the excuses. I can't afford that. I can't. So, the other thing you need with that, going back, capacitance. I don't want a variable capacitor. Make pigtail capacitors. There's a piece of coax, and we'll connect that up to a capacitance meter. I think that's 90 picofarad. And I can change that by just clipping them onto my loop. And if I want to change frequency, if I know if I chip this off or make several of them, by adjusting the length of these, or even putting them in parallel, or making a bank of them, I can then adjust the capacitance of what I require to fine tune my antenna. So there's a capacitor that's cheap as chips. And there's the braid from the inside of one of those. So far it's getting cheaper. Still no excuses. I've heard it all the time. Oh, I've got to make a Faraday loop. A Faraday loop. The word scares people. A Faraday loop. Right. Now I've got notes on how to make Faraday loops, and an example of a Faraday loop. Let's pull out all the bits and pieces I've got here. I say, not into public speaking as such. There's some of that cheapest chip stuff, look. But a Faraday loop. Here's a Faraday loop. This is the one that works on that antenna there. Actually, this is for the bigger one. You cut it, you get the right length, and it's about 1/5 of the diameter of the frequency of the loop that you've got to the frequency tuned. All the information is there. I shall share that in a moment. I'm just getting through these excuses that people say they can't afford it. It's a bit of coax. It's a bit of coax. Well, okay, that's a bit of coax, but how do you make a Faraday loop? Well, it's simple. Get another piece of coax. You cut the centre out. Just nip it off there. Solder that onto that. That's your Faraday loop. You know, you can snip it off here at the middle if you want, and solder the inner core to the outer core. Then put a bit of tape on it. There's another Faraday loop. We're still going down the cheap bit. So, oh, I can't do that. I can't wire up coax. No, this is getting silly. Okay, let's make one like this. The inner of the core that I stripped out from that, because I keep all my bits, and just solder a tag. Again, you make a loop. Solder to the outer part of the SO239 and that to the inside. The length of this is determined by the frequency of 1/5 of the circumference of this, which is about 1/10 of the frequency you wish to work. You can make it variable by the amount of capacitance you put in there. We've covered the capacitance. We can do it like this. Yeah. If you want to make it multi-plated, use your wife's best china or your husband's best china, whatever. I don't think they'd appreciate you making china cups fit slide across each other with bits of tin foil in there. So here's the Faraday loop for that small antenna there that's made. And I think we can get to the point in a moment. You'll see what I've done here is I've soldered the outer braid to the outer braid of that part of the coax. I've nipped it and put the centre to the outer braid. So there's your Faraday loop. Now, I haven't heard anybody snoring yet, so I shall continue. You can see I'm dressed in best chef's pants today. So, some people are actually asking me about cooking with antennas. You know, is it about cooking an apple with Wi-Fi? Well, you can do that, and that's in another series. But how difficult is that to make? Right? Well, if you can make that, or you can make that, there's nothing stopping you, if you can't get the components to make that, is to get a piece of coax. Come on. I thought my assistant would have helped me on this one, but obviously they like snake charming. Can't get a snake out of the box. There we go. Right, done that. Right, 2.2 metres of coax. There's your loop already. That's it. 30 amp plug on there, that gives you the distance there to stop any arcing. Connect that to your magic 50 quid one, or to your capacitor somehow you've mounted on your frame with your variable plates, or even with that. You'd have them upside down, you'd have it that way up, so your capacitor will be there, and you can play with your capacitance. Your Faraday loop would stand at the top here. There's your cheap Faraday loop. Now, if you can't tell me that that's not a portable antenna, you know, or you haven't got the garden space to make that, you know, there's people in here that are lying, because I'll tell you what, I've gone out and made antennas out of bits of wire, and I've had some fantastic QSOs out there, just from things like this. 2.2 metres, I'll be asking questions later. And a bit of braid. Now, I put the braid, by getting all this cut to that length, 2.2 metres, from that black point there to that black point there, and I just cut out the centrepiece, put a bit of hot glue on it, or if you're like me, can't afford a hot glue gun, just melt the end of the plastic and fingertip over the top of the copper, so it just doesn't short out. It doesn't matter, but that's just my preference. And then I make that into a taper, and I open up the inside of one of those. Just open it up, ream it out, then slide that one inside that, crimp it down. Cheap as chips, look at that. That's a loop antenna. If you don't believe me that it won't work, we've actually got some practical demonstrations coming on. But there is your loop. You can have that at the bottom, just for stability with your capacitor, and that will be on there like that. This will work 18130 and 21 megs and 10. I've always had trouble with 15 meters, always had trouble with that, but that is a simple antenna. Now, that makes it cheaper than having to go to the expense of buying these components, or even having to go out to start off with buying one of these. Oh, I can't cut that with a hacksaw, I haven't got a hacksaw, I haven't got one of those. So, use a piece of tubing. Now, some of the things that you can do is you can fine tune capacitors. Got a nice big capacitor like that. You've got a nice big capacitor like that. Now they've all got variable capacitance. You put them in parallel, and you can fine tune it. Now, how do you tune one of these things? Well, most people listen for the noisiest part of tuning in. Once it's all connected up to your radio, you can tune in, and you just about hear it. And you can use an SWR meter, put a small squirt of power into the antenna, and you can tune it using the SWR meter and change it by just giving it a little twiddle, whatever. It doesn't take much. However, if you've got it in parallel with another capacitor, so you've got one of those with one of those together, you can do a fine tune and get the frequency desired. And if you want, super glue that, and that's your locked frequency. You don't have to put super glue on that, but then again, I would probably put up to 20 watts and set it on fire. Like I say, you get all sorts of things that happen with loop antennas. Now, I like to run my loops like that, in that plane. Not like that, just like that. So, that's the direction of the antennas. We will go. It's like a donut with a hole in the centre. It's like a donut. So if I go like that, I get a spread all round. So the donut. Now you do get some variance of high spots and some low spots, and that can be done with one of these little cheap and nasty little RF meters. You can measure it round. You put a squirt of power into that. You can go around about 8 inches away from the antenna. You can see where the high spots and low spots are, and then you can adjust where you want to put it, in which direction you want to fire it. So, what do we do about? How do we mount these? Well, I've mounted these on window frames. My wife doesn't like that, but I've nailed them to the side of a shed. I've laid them on top of a shed roof. I've just epoxy up everything. I put it in I get a little plastic box to protect things, and I use one of these cheap little nasty motors, a little battery, just to get it fine-tuned. And it's very slow, very tedious, very painful. So you end up going up there, tuning it manually, and then using the very fine tune on that. So coarse tuning with this, and then fine tuning electrically with this. Like I say, about 90p on eBay. Or you could make one. You can make one. You can steal motors out of toys and clocks and all sorts of things. And they're all over the place, all these little ones. You can use already driven capacitors that have got gears in there to make it slow. However, if you can get a piece of paper through that gap, you're going to end up probably sparking and arcing, and you don't want that to happen. So obviously, the wider the gap, the more power it will run. However, don't touch it when you're transmitting, because, as I said, it hurts. Yeah, that's a nice frequency throw, isn't it?
You haven't mentioned how many TF you need.
Coming to that, yeah. Puff, 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 puff. Yeah. Going by my notes, now, I hope you've all got your pens and papers handy. Going on that 310, which is this one here, right? The capacitance on 28490 with the 22mm tubing, it's about 19 puff. On 15 it's 21. And all down the table, if we go to 18130, which is my favourite frequency to listen to, 46 puff on 22mm tubing and 52 puff if it's on 15mm. It's not much, which means it's a bit of a bugger trying to tune that finely. So I use another capacitor in parallel with it. Now, as I said, the primary loop, because it's inductance, it's an inductance loop. You're connecting your radio to that only, not to the big one. It's literally just a tuned circuit. You've got your coil and you've got your capacitor, and there's your inductor. That goes straight. Yeah, you're going to squirt your 20 watts into that. Obviously, on the bigger one, I've used a different thing. In fact, it was this one here. I've used 50 watts, and I'm quite sure I could probably push it to 70, 75. I never run my rigs past 90 watts on any antenna. I don't like to drive my radios hard. But you could quite easily run the 22 with something like that, and it's very reliable. I've had some lovely contacts. So much so that my wife knows that I'm just fascinated by magnetic loop antennas, that for a present for my birthday a couple of years ago, she actually went out and bought me 2 of the MFJ antennas for both ends of the spectrum, which I was like, oh, I like to make my antennas, and you've spent a lot of money buying commercial, but I put them up anyway so she can see I'm using them. But what she doesn't know, on the back of the shed, I've got one of these, and I can mess about in the back garden with those. So I get a lot of enjoyment out of making these things. However, when I go overseas, which is quite often, I take something like that. She doesn't know it's in my bag with all my dive equipment. So I can actually have something like that and just tune it up. Even if I'm not transmitting, at least I can listen around the world. You know, maybe with just some cups as a capacitor. You know, you do get stopped at security if they start seeing things like this in your bags, but who stops you with Coke cans, because that's a ready-made capacitor. Now, another thing about capacitance, it doesn't have to be one of these. As I said, it could be strips of these. Now, there's loads of information on the internet, loads. You look up magnetic loop antennas, you really wouldn't know where to start because there is so much. However, I have got some information here from a few people who I've been in touch with, and some of this stuff is really interesting. So I know Graham's making notes here. Graham, you can have that.
Thank you very
That
much.
saves you writing.
That's saving you writing.
Yeah.
Can't understand your writing, but it saves me to
He's now got no excuse not to make one of those.
I've got arthritis, I can't do any welding.
Don't
I
be
can't
welding.
cut tape with what hands like this. What tape? I'll tell you what, next week I'll bring one down.
No, not next week. Not next
The
week.
week after.
Whoa. Yeah, you're jumping the gun. You're jumping the gun. Right, so another thing about capacitance. I've actually made, I didn't bring it because it's actually broken and it's in the back of another shed. There's nothing to stop you having something like this, and you have tubes hanging down, soldered on here, yeah, 22mm tubing, and you get some fine micro bore, 10mm I believe it is, copper tubing from the local emporium, and if you sleeve the inside of the tubes, and you've got this, it's called a trombone capacitor, and if you've got it mounted on a piece of wood, you can then lift up the trombone, little pegs in the wood, and wherever it's tuned, you can fine tune it, drill a hole, put a little plastic peg in there, and you've got yourself a fine-tuned trombone capacitor. You could also make trombone capacitors out of these. There are other brands available. You know those energy drink cans? They're brilliant at making. So you cut the tops and bottoms off of these, and use the energy drink ones and put a sleeve on the inside. If you can get PTFE sheet or a bit of plastic sheeting that will fit on the inside, glue it on the inside, and it will slide in and out. That's your trombone capacitor. And with trombone capacitors, they cost money. But if you make them out of recycled tins, it doesn't cost you much, does it? You taking notes on that? Good. Yeah. Be asking questions at the end of the session. So, cooking with antennas. How easy is it to solder that? Yeah, as I said, heat it underneath, let it solder. I always put plumber's lead on the top, clean off that when it's cold. Do that 7 times, stick the 2 end pieces on, you come up with that one there. Now, we're going to go into the practical side of things, so I'll need help with my assistant. So, hopefully, we can get things shown, a little bit of a practical demonstration. I will not be holding the antenna, because I don't want to get that nasty bite. So, let's see if we can hook this one up, and see if it will stay in place, because I've thrown this together. That's not the one. No, it's not that one there. It's one of the... Ah, it's that one there. Right. We can tune this, and we'll throw one of those nasty loops on there. See, I wear these trousers to take away you actually having to put up with me fumbling about like this. And get that on there. That's on. There's your tuned circuit. There's your tuned circuit. So let's lay that on there. Move everything out of the way. Let's go back to capacitance. You've got a tape ruler. You can use it as a tuned capacitor inside another piece of tubing. So, depending on what the length is, it doesn't have to be directly in line with the thing, it's just nice to hang it up on the wall or whatever. You can have it pointing this way, and the capacitance can come out this way. Same with the trombone capacitor that way. So, if we get one of these loops here, that I'll throw them down on the floor. See, snakes again. And we put that on there. We've got my assistant help me with that, please. Let's get all this out of the way. Now I am aware that we've got nasty Zorka. Let's take that one off of there and put that other one on. I'm sure we can. Or should we do the big one? Should we fry it? No.
Yes.
No frying tonight. I know we're cooking with antennas, but no frying tonight. So, let's see if the tags will work on this. Don't think it's on this one. No, it's on the other one. It's on that one there. Hopefully you're suitably bored now. Let's use it. That one and that one there.
Have you got any gherkins?
Have I got any gherkins? No. Can't be having gherkins. I can see a few plums sitting around though. Right. Let's get rid of my capacitance stuff. There's my plate for my plate capacitor. There's my little bit of capacitance there. And let's hook this one up. Let's make sure that it's nice and tight on there. For some reason that's not. That's it. Right, let's see if we can tune that up. So we tune this baby up. And what we'll do is we'll also try the coaxial one. See if we can tune that. So we've got, what frequency are we on there? Can you see? Can you spot what frequency we've got humming? See, my assistant didn't do their job, did they?
You can tell me what you want.
Right, let's start with 18130. because it's going to be relatively 14.8. They think we might get a bit of interference.
Down there, off mine. 14.6.
14.6.
14.5.
14.5.
I'm going to tune down now.
We're going down.
14.4.
14.4.
14.2. Yeah.
14.200. On a bit of coax capacitor.
What's the likely SWR bandwidth?
I think it's about 9 kilohertz on there. It'll tell you on there, on that 14.200.
14.196 to 14.3. It's quite wide actually.
Now if we change that for the larger coil, so we can see where we're at with the larger diameter. This is a little bit longer because it was made for something else, but it shows that that works on 20 meters. It does work on 17. Let's do the same thing here. And we should be able to see. Hang on. Throw that onto that. Let's bring that down here. Right.
14.8.
14.8.
Still 14.8.
I haven't moved it enough yet. There we go. How's that?
It's going to be down. It's just over 14.6.
14.6.
Still 14.6.
Oh, it's tuning better than I thought.
14.5.
About 3 millimeters there.
14.3 and a bit.
14.3 and a bit, so we're just inside
14.2 and a bit.
14.2 and a bit. What's that?
This is a steeper peak. It's probably
What frequency you got there?
14.2, pretty much bang on.
14.2. And what's the band spread on that?
Depending on where we measure. 14.150, 14.250. Still quite wide.
How easy is that? Now let's change it.
When you say the thicker copper tube is better, what are you measuring is better? More gain
Well,
or less loss?
It's a bigger antenna, so you've got a bigger throw on it. I'm not going into the science of this.
No.
That's not the idea of it tonight. It was about just showing you how you can do this. But I mean, I've had somebody actually make this out of like 60 odd millimetre copper piping, and the band spread is a lot wider. So obviously, the smaller the diameter, the narrower the band spread. But just because you said so, yeah? Just because you said so, right? Let's get rid of that. Let's put this one up. It's about it's just how you can just make antennas, you know, become easily available. Now, I brought some crocodile clips, which I hadn't brought with me. I didn't think to pick them up. We could have used we could have used the cups, but I didn't bring the crocodile clips with me. But for the sake of Graham, what was the length of that length of coax I said that it should be?
You got me there.
Ah, see, wasn't paying attention. See me after class.
2.4 was it?
2.2. Right, now let's go with the cheap and nasty option. So we've got a piece of coax and just that. And we're going to swap that coax for another piece that I had laying in the shack. If my assistant would kindly connect that to the magic box. These antennas, to me, it's just cheap, easy, practical, and to be perfectly honest, there's no reason why anybody can't make these. And the thing is that there aren't people showing you how to do this, and it bugs me. And it's only because I've got a love for these little things here. Let's just place that on there like that. What do we got there?
All manner of stuff.
Yeah, you should have 18 on there as well.
So I've got a peak at 14.6. I've got one at 15.8 and a bit.
Should have about 17. Sorry, about 18.1. And some of the capacitance.
No, must have been.
Right, let's find. Where are we now?
I would say you've got that. You know, 15.8, 14.
Let's go a bit wider on that. Let's try that.
Doesn't want to move from 15.8, will.
All right. Should start to peak now. It might be because
We've got 3 peaks. I've got.
there you go.
I've got 3 peaks in noise. Still around just about 15.8. One at 14.7 and one at 13.6.
Right, so let's go.
What do you mean?
No. Don't show me up now. Actually,
No.
let's just do a bit of cookery here. I'm changing the shape slightly of the inductor there, so we've got more separation there. Right, so
Okay, so it's a huge signal at about 11.4.
so it'll go down to 10 megs.
It's quite wide actually.
Yep. What do you got now?
Just tune you down. Still got about 11.3.
Now there is a hit and miss factor on these when you make these things, as you can see, but I've had these antennas, I've been playing with them for years. What peak have you got coming up now? You should have 3 peaks appearing.
The big wide one's at about 11.3. I've got a narrower one at about 10.2
Yeah.
and one at 13.2.
Alright, so let's go that way.
It's still about 11.3.5.
Alright, let's just change that. Let's go with the expensive one. Does that make much difference?
11.3, 13.
Peaking, I'm probably changing my
Sorry.
response there.
You've got a small one at 14.2.
Uh-huh.
Moving the mouse in the wrong place. Yeah, so you've got one at 14.2.
So there's 20 metres straight away.
Nothing much above. If you go down a bit, you've got one at 11.3 still.
Okay, let's.
That's 11.3.
Right,
Whatever
try
you,
that.
whatever you do, the 11.3 one stays there.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Should have gone up the band a bit.
Yeah, we've got one at 18. 18.8.
18.8, so I need to go back down a bit.
Still one at 18.
18 what?
18 dead.
18 dead. So again, this is where I'd have another capacitor running in parallel to fine tune that one. Now this would be done by ear if you was listening to a radio, and you can actually hear the peak actually lifting and going up. Let's move that up a bit. And you can listen to it. And then all you need to do is have an SWR meter in line. But this just gives you a practical idea of what you can get away with just some coax and a simple Faraday loop there. And you'll find that that particular type works extremely well. Now the lengths of these things is 496 millimetres. So It's already written down on a bit of paper there, Graham.
I'm writing it anyway.
Yeah. So 496, I cut it to 500, trim it back, cut off a piece of the plastic around the coax and just solder the outer coax to that, snip it off, and I've got 496 on there. And that is it. As I said, with capacitance, tiny little capacitance, I usually, for homemade capacitors like these, with bits of wire stuck on there, in fact a piece came off of there, you can actually, after the chat, you can all have a play, and you'll see that just by tuning those 2 bits of silver foil around the cup, you can make a very fine capacitor. In fact, you could probably wire it into this and fine tune it using that. Again, I wouldn't use more than 5 watts with something like a QRP, but you can get away with a lot of things there. Now, I've nearly come to the end, as I said, and we've seen a practical demonstration of how the loops work. I'm going to throw open a bit of a challenge. We've got Christmas coming up, we've got a few weeks to kill. We're going to be sitting in sheds, in garages, shacks or wherever, in the spare room. My challenge to the club is a little bit of a competition. And what I'd like is somebody to make a magloop antenna. The competition will be, it'll be £5 entry, which the funds will go to the club, for every loop you bring in. So if you bring in 3 loops because you're greedy, it's 15 quid, you know? But if you bring 1 loop in and it wins, you win 25 quid. That 25 quid doesn't come out of the club funds, that's coming out of my pocket. Because I want to see you guys, it'll pay, if you win, it'll pay for the goods that you've spent out on, especially if you use this particular one, because you'll have all the money back that you spent, and you'll enjoy the fact that you've got yourself an antenna that works. You can stick it in the window, you can put it up against a wall, it's not affected by all the noise of computers and screens. Magloops are really, really a magical antenna. I love them, I really do. And I've been using them now for 20 odd years, messing about. And it started off basically by making, I saw something very similar to this loop here, and I used to use it just for receiving. And then I thought, well, actually I could use it for transmitting as well. And I just hooked up a small amplifying unit to it, and just before the days of PCs. And I was actually out there transmitting in the field, literally hanging. There, oh look, there's a magloop antenna there already. But I've spotted that. So just hanging it in a tree, and I was away, battery powered. I think it was on 20 metres, and I was just contacting everybody. So the thing is, there's a competition date. It will be the 15th of January, and it'll be in here. So I hope to see a few tables out with a few antennas, and the decision for the winner will be by the committee members that are here present at the time. And if there's a tie, I get to choose who gets to win. So likewise, you could make lots of antennas, enter multiple times. However, I did, just like for Graham, I've done some copies of the sheet and information. There's a couple of things. If you need to know the sizes of magloops, there's a really good calculator on the internet, 66pacific.com, and it tells you everything that you need to know about the sizes of the sides, for example, what length to cut these. 310. Did I say that? And it tells you what size the loop should be. Also, it tells you the capacitance required. You can get away with the capacitance because if you get one of these little capacity meters, an ESR meter, oh look, I've got some capacitors. Look, there's capacitors made of Coke can, other brands available. It's just so easy. And let's just show, while I'm here, what sort of capacitance we can get. Because I haven't done this for a little while. So, let's put a Coke, piece of Coke tin there. Just put that one down, pointing downwards. That one on there, that one on there. You paying attention, Graham?
Yep.
Good.
Can't afford 30 quid for this area, bro.
Huh?
I can't afford the 30 quid for the 24 for the area and the £5 entry fee.
We get your money back because you're the only one that's going to enter, apparently.
True, boom.
Yeah.
Like the idea of that.
Yeah, see? Oh, I thought of that one. He's already won. So, let's zero the meter. Right. On just a couple of bits of tin, or aluminium I should say. Let's see what we've got there. Capacitance there, 53 puff.
Just because you don't believe.
Just because you don't believe me. 52.86. And if we move that, just slide it along a little bit, 61. Now, I'd put 100 watts through that because it's got ceramic between the two. I'd put 100 watts through that because there's a nice big gap and we can get that, we can tune it down. Still going 59, let's go 61. And that's just on a couple of bits of tin between some tiles. Silver foil, let's try the silver foil. Bit of silver foil. Literally kitchen foil folded up to make two little plates. Haven't done anything special to it. It's just to show you that capacitors can be made out of anything. And we've got that one there. Two bits of foil. Oh, let me zero that first. And it's going to be slightly different to the aluminium foil that I was using. So let's put that on there. Put this one on here. And we've got 69 puff. And if I just, let's put that clip out of the way from that one there. Right. 76 puff, two bits of aluminium foil, and we can move those plates to make it larger or smaller. 68. So you can basically, you've got yourself a bigger version of that, and you can put more power through it than that. You could probably get away with 2-3 watts with something like that. Aluminium foil, I'd probably only use about 20 watts, but bits of soft drinks cans, if you was going to make something like that, I would use hot wax. I know it sounds daft, but I've done it. Piece of wax from a candle on there, warm up the tile, put it on there, and it sets solid. So once you're happy with that, you can move it and slide it, and it reheats it, and it will stick again. And there you go. I've got 71 puff on that one. Just on that. If I move it across, 63, 62. Settling at 61. No, it's coming down. There you go, 60 puff. So just out some silver foil, you've got yourself a nice plate capacitor. Don't tell the wife I stole the tiles, just for the demonstration purpose. So there we are. As I said, competition 15th January. Hope you all start making some antennas for us to have a look at. As I said, the price comes out of my pocket, and I'll be pleased to pay that, not just because you're going to make yourself a prize-winning antenna. It's the fact that you've had the enjoyment of doing that over the Christmas break between now and then. I thank you very much.
Off the top of your head, how big's one for top band?
Sorry?
How big do we need to look for top band?
I made a top band antenna, and it basically took up 1.5 panels of a garden fence, but I made it as a quad, and I had two rather large, two of these, one to tune down and the other one to and it worked really well, but Unfortunately, we had the wind that took the fence panels down, and my neighbour wanted to know why they had copper piping laying in their garden, but they were quite understanding because they see the scrapyard that I've got actually in my sky over my garden, so they knew it was something to do with my radios.
What bands would that likely cover then? Top band, 80 and...
The one that I had, it was top end of top band, so I wasn't going down to the CW end. It was working some of the AM frequencies. Then I was going to the bottom end of 80, but then I had to change one of the capacitors if I wanted to go further up. The efficiency rate changes as well, because obviously if you go onto the 66pacific.com site, it tells you the efficiency of each band. And for example, if I was working one antenna, this might work really well on 18130, and the efficiency might be about 75%. But if I start going down to another band, it might only be about 66. We're talking about a couple of S points. However, that's offset by the fact that you've got a load of noise on my long wire antenna or my G5RV, and that doesn't hear the noise. So if you was working with something like Whisper or some of the other digital modes, magnetic loops are fantastic for that particular use. And you can hide them, as I've successfully done over the years.
Till your fence blows down.
Till the fence blows down, yes. But there you are. So the challenge is there, and I thank you once again. And if anybody wants a copy of some of my little ditty notes I've got there, it's got some information with regards to, there's one guy, Kevin Lachlan, KB9RLW, who does ham radio antennas, magnetic loop experiments, and he's on YouTube. And also there's another chap who's got his own website as well. He does YouTube videos as well, and that's Frank N4SPP. My thanks goes to those guys for their invaluable information that they've obviously shared over the years with other radio amateurs. I hope that this actually gets people to look at making these. They are cheap, they are easy. Sometimes I think it's the mystery of making antennas actually puts people off. That's what it is, it's the mystery. Hopefully I haven't got none of the science behind it, the Q factors and the resonance and inductance and all those magical things. That can put people off. If you was going to make a 20 metre to 40 metre antenna, you'd have a circumference of you'd cut the sides to 640. So if you was to make one of those sides 640, it's quite a big antenna, but you can work 20 and 40 very easily on that. And again, the primary loop, the Faraday loop, is 1/5 the size. So, once again, thanks very much. Thank you for your help. Ta-da! Tea time.